Good morning everybody. Today we shall look into the aspect of tense. Tense, the present and the past. Please look at your monitors. What is a tense? Let us try to understand what a tense is. All finite verbs are marked for tense. There are two tenses in English. What are they? The present and the past. Auxiliary verbs and lexical verbs show distinctions between two tenses. When I said all finite verbs are marked for tense, now how are the tense markers known? The tense of a verb phrase is indicated by the first auxiliary if there is an auxiliary verb in the phrase, or by the lexical verb if there are no lexical verbs. Then it shall be indicated only by the auxiliary verbs. If there are no auxiliary verbs, then it shall be indicated by the lexical verbs. Now look at the second sentence. There are two tenses in English, the present and the past. You might wonder what happened to the future tense. In English, we don't say there is future tense, we shall only say there is future time reference. We have present tense and the past tense, we have only future time reference. Thirdly, how are the distinctions known to us? The distinctions are known in terms of auxiliary verbs and lexical verbs. I have given you in my introduction to verbs the primary auxiliary verbs, the secondary auxiliary verbs, and a list of lexical verbs also. The primary auxiliaries are is, am, are, was, were, have, has, had, do, did, does, primary auxiliaries. The secondary auxiliaries or the modal auxiliaries are can, could, will, would, shall, should, may, might, must, ought. These are auxiliary verbs. Now having understood this, let us see the examples of how the tense works. The examples here below show how the tense of a verb phrase is identified with auxiliary verbs. When I say can dance, it means I am using the verb phrase can dance in present tense. The past tense of can dance is could dance. May play is in present tense form. The past tense of may is might, then play, might play. Will jump, present tense form. The past tense of will jump is would jump. The fourth one, shall return, is in the present tense form. The past tense of shall return is should return. Having understood the examples with auxiliary verbs, we shall look into another set of examples without auxiliary verbs. In the present tense, you have walk or walks. The past tense of walk is ed, walked. In the present tense, we have go or goes. Now, the past tense of go is went. Now, as I have told you before, the present simple form takes what type of auxiliary? It takes an S or an ES. It takes an S or an ES form. Walk has taken which auxiliary? An S form, walks. Now, go has taken which auxiliary? An ES form. Now, the first example is the example of regular verbs. The second is an example of what verbs? Irregular verbs. It takes an S or an ES form in the present tense. Tense is what? A grammatical feature of a verb and a verb phrase, and it is not to be identified with the concept of time. Now, whenever we try to understand the word tense, we generally associate the word tense with time. That is, quite often distinctions of tense mark the distinctions of time. In most of the languages it happens, but in English that is not the case. That is not the only marker. When we say in English we have two tenses, what am I doing? We are referring to this grammatical feature of the verb and not the distinctions of time alone. When I say there are two tenses, I am looking at what? The grammatical feature of what? The verb, how the verb changes in the present tense. I am only looking at their form and I am not looking at their meaning. When I say grammatical feature, as I told you earlier, in present simple tense, what is the one that gets added? It is the suffix. Suffix andre antya pratyaya. That gets added by the word yes or an es. So, I am looking at the grammatical feature alone. That is, only their form is taken into account. So, I am not looking at the meaning. So, it is not a great marker of time alone. It does not show time alone. How can we identify? We can identify the tense of the verb by its form. Only by its form you can identify the tense of a verb. As I told you earlier, here in the case of verb with the help of yes or an es. Now, the grammatical feature of tense is to convey different meanings. Today, we shall see what are the different meanings the grammatical feature of tense conveys. Now, we shall understand how present tense in a detailed way. I, we, you, they. Now, look at these markers that I have shown in front of your monitors. I live in Bangalore. We live in Bangalore. You live in Bangalore. Now, all these words, I live, we live, you live, here there are no changes. No changes with what? No changes with the verb. The verb here is not changing, no change. The verb here doesn't change. Now, the present tense is marked by the suffix yes or an es, whereas when we speak especially of third person singular. Third person singular. Then you have an S form. That is, he lives in Bangalore, she lives in Bangalore, it lives in Bangalore. Now, then you see the word yes, that is the suffix yes is marked here to show what? The present tense. Now, having understood the present tense, we shouldn't stop here. We should try to know when to use the present tense. Let us do a quick recap of the present tense form here. I live, there is no change. We live, there is no change. You live, the verb doesn't change. They live, the verb doesn't change in I, we, you and they. That is, the verb doesn't change in first person singular, first person plural, second person singular, that is you, second person plural, and third person plural, the verb doesn't change at all. Now there is a change of the verb only in third person singular. That you have to remember. When does the change happen? Only in simple present tense. The third person singular, that is the verb takes an S or an ES form. Now look at your monitors. In the present tense, it is marked by the suffix. What is the suffix? Yes or an ES. Having understood this, we shall look into the uses of simple present tense. Now, what are the uses of simple present tense? To make general statements which do not have specific time reference. To make statements. What are the statements? No specific time reference at all. It doesn't have a specific time reference. Kalada bagge yavude tarahada reference illa. This is the first way you can use present simple tense or simple present tense. Let us see this with the help of an example. The earth revolves round the sun. How do I understand this as a sentence that uses which present simple form? The earth now revolves. Yes, it takes an S form, which is a verb. Revolve is a verb. It takes an S form, round the sun. So this particular sentence is in which tense? It is in present simple form. Let us look at the second sentence. India shares a border with Nepal. Now, which is a verb here? Share. It is followed by what? An S. India shares a border. It is sharing a border with whom? With Nepal. Now, what does these sentence convey? Now, all these sentences refer to facts that are always true. Anki amshagalu facts ivala. Ee facts ellavu saha satya. The use of present tense in them does not indicate any specific point of time. It doesn't talk about a particular point in time at all. In my introduction, I said tense is not a marker of time. So these sentences do not talk about time reference at all. There is no specific time reference here. Now what does it say? But it suggests a time span extending infinitely into a remote past and a distant future. It talks about a time span that began somewhere in past and it is extending To which time? To somewhere in a distant future. By covering which time reference? Present time reference also. So, these sentences refer to a time which has began in the past and somewhere it shall cover the distant future also. Present tense for making timeless statements. That means for timeless statements also we can use present tense in continuation with the previous slide. Other examples are she knows Kannada, S. He likes ice cream, S. She reads newspaper. Now these sentences also do not have specific time reference. There is no mention of specific time reference here. The sentences do not say she knows Kannada for 1 hour. She knows Kannada from this to that. It doesn't say. He likes ice creams. It doesn't talk about a specific time. She reads newspapers every day. The word reads newspaper every day doesn't specifically talk about the time reference. That is a habitual happening. Now what does it specify? Now the sentences given above represent a state or a condition. It talks about ಒಂದು ಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು condition. That is how these sentences show. So two examples, one for making what? One for making general statements which do not have specific time reference. The second one is talking about the sentences which do not have specific time reference, but our knowledge of the world, prapanchada gnana, tells us that they cover a much shorter time span. Tumba kadime samayavanna cover agate. She knows Kannada, it tumba kadime samaya. It is not like the previous set of examples wherein we saw how the sentences gave the intended meaning that it started from a remote past and extending up to where? To distant future. Look at the third way we try to use the present simple tense form. To refer to action which are repeated over a period of time. The same actions are repeated where over a period of time. That means what? She walks 2 miles a day. Yes is a marker, walk plus yes suffix, 2 miles a day. That means every day she walks. What does it show? It shows the habit or the nature of that particular lady who walks 2 miles a day. Second example, earthquakes kill thousands of people. Now look at the word kill. Earthquakes is in plural. That is in which form? They form. Kill thousands of people. Now here also this is a nature, a habitual event that happens in a very common way. They produce, what do they produce? 1,000 bikes a month. The word produce is a verb. Now this is an action that a particular company does. Now what does these three events suggest? They suggest to habitual actions and events. So we can say that present tense is used here to refer to habitual actions and events. Now in order to indicate frequency, you can say she walks 2 miles a day. You have frequency here. In order to indicate frequency, we can say earthquakes kill thousands of people once in a year. The word once in a year, when added, talks about frequency. They produce 1,000 bikes a month. Once again, a month talks about frequency. Let us look at the other usage. Now, I have listed certain examples here which shows that actions which have begun in these examples and they have been completed approximately at the moment of speech. That is, action has happened, speech has happened, approximately there is a beautiful resonance between your action and your speech. ನೀವು ಮಾತನಾಡಿದಾಗ ಆ ಆಕ್ಷನ್ ನಡೆಸಿದಾಗ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ನನ್ನ ಮಾತನ್ನ ಮುಗಿಸಿದಾಗ then I find these actions have been completed. There is a what is called complementary feeling. ಒಂದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಬಹಳ complementary ಆಗಿ ಕಾಣಿಸುತ್ತೆ. Let us see the example. The first one is what? Commentary. What is commentary? I know for sure you can always say a cricket commentary. That is Vikshaka Vivarane. Now what are commentaries? Commentaries are such that where the commentator describes a series of events or action as they happen. Whatever action he sees, he describes in what? In his own fashion. That is a commentary. Now let us look at this particular example. Dhoni throws the ball to Rahul. Now throw, it has taken an S form. Throw is a verb here. Now Dhoni is throwing the ball. To whom Dhoni is throwing the ball? To Rahul. It is a commentary. An explanation is happening. An action is being shown and simultaneously, side by side, an explanation is given to the action that is shown. The batsman hits the ball for 4. When I say the batsman hits the ball, which is a verb there, the verb there is hits. H-I-T, suffix, yes. So when he has hit the ball for 4, then action is happening simultaneously and the commentator will be commenting on the batsman's hit. So even in commentary, you have to use which tense form? The simple present tense form. For demonstration. Now demonstration means what? In demonstrations, the speaker describes what he or she is doing. Now describe what the speaker is doing. Now look at this sentence. Now pour water into the vessel. There is a demonstration that is happening. Probably a recipe is being told. Now what is he doing? He is pouring the water into the vessel. Here in demonstration, the speaker is describing the action. So that is how the demonstration is being shown. The other example for demonstration. I shuffle the pack of cards and put it here. Where are the verbs? Shuffle. Shuffling the pack of cards. And where have you put it? I put it here. These are two verbs. Now he is showing you what the particular person is doing. That is describing. So even in demonstration, we use which particular verbs? Simple present tense verbs. The third one is what? Exclamation. Here the speaker expresses his or her feelings over some event or action. What are his or her feeling? Here comes the bus. Probably you are waiting for a bus. The moment you see the bus, you say, here comes the bus, followed by an exclamatory mark. There goes the hero. You want to talk about a particular person. You see him, and then you could say, there goes the hero, or this could be a statement of sarcasm also. Now here the speaker expresses his feeling over some event or action at the moment of its happening. The action is happening at that point in time. ಆ ಕ್ಷಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ particular action ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. At that particular point, he is exclaiming this. So, for these three things, for what? For commentary, for demonstration, for exclamation, we use present simple tense. Present simple tense is also used in narrating past actions or events. Now, how are they used? Look at the second bullet point. Describing the past events as if they are happening now. That is, you are reliving the situation. You are talking about the past events as if they are happening now, as if they are going to happen, as if they are going to happen now. ಈಗ ಆಗುವ ತನಕ ಹಳೆ ಕಾಲದ ಈವೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ನರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಥೆಯನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ. Now let us see these sentences. The driver stops the bus. I'm underlining the verb. And the men enter the bus and rob the passengers at gunpoint. Now what has happened? The driver has stopped the bus. Now you are talking of a past event as if it is happening now. Now here simple present tense is used to describe the past events as if they are happening now. Now what does it create? The driver has stopped the bus. Driver ಏನು ಮಾಡಿದಾನೆ, ಬಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸಿದ್ದಾನೆ. Men enter, men have come to the bus, and immediately what happened? They robbed the passengers at gunpoint. Passengers ಅನ್ನ ಅವರು immediate ಆಗಿ ಗನ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕದಿಯಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Now what is the effect? Why do I say that? Why do I say the past events as if they are happening now? ಯಾತಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ? The effect is to create an impression of dramatic immediacy, very similar to that of an eyewitness's account. ನಾವೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಣ್ಣೆದುರು ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಘಟನೆಯನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಅದನ್ನು ಪುನಃ ಬೇರೊಬ್ಬರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ವಿವರಿಸಿದ್ದಾಗ ಯಾವ ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಅನ್ನು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸ್ತೇವೆ? ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್. ಆ ಘಟನೆ ಪಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದರೂ ಸಹ, ಹಳೆಯದಾಗಿದ್ದರೂ ಸಹ, we say which form? Present simple tense form we say, describing the past events as if they are happening now. This is also another example to say that there is no clear marker between tense and time reference. The second example which you can see is that, see the third bullet point, in describing past acts of communication which continue to be relevant at present, I talk of certain activities that happened in the past, ಹಳೆಯದಾದ ಕೆಲವು activities ಅಥವಾ communication whichever, ಅದು ಯಾವಾಗ ಇದೆ? It is relevant even today, it is relevant even now, it is even relevant till up to date. I hear that Geeta is buying a car. Where is the verb? Here. Now this is an activity which refers to an acts of communication. Here I hear that Geeta is buying a car. My friend tells me, where is the verb? Tells me that you have won an award. The verb here, the verb tells in these sentences refer to acts of communication which took place in the past. Now, verb here tells yadana sutsate, act of communication which happened in the past, but they are used in the present tense. Though they have happened in the past, ಯಾವ tense ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ? Present tense ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ. To show that the results or effects of these acts are still relevant and that the information conveyed is operative even now. ಹಳೆ ಕಾಲದ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್ ಆದರೂ ಸಹ ಅದರ ಫಲಿತಾಂಶ ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ರೆಲೆವೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಕನ್ವೇಡ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಪರೇಟಿವ್ ಈವನ್ ನಾವ್. ಇವತ್ತು ಸಹ ನಮಗೆ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ? ಆಪರೇಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. Another example, look at the fourth bullet point. By convention, we use simple present tense to refer to past events. That is, in news headlines, headlines in of newspapers, headlines of newspaper, as well as in newscasts over the radio or the TV, we use simple present tense to refer past events. Now, which are the news headlines? Headlines in the newspaper, in newspaper headlines. Opposition supports strike call. Look at the word supports. India win the match. India and Nepal agree on human rights. The word supports is taken, has taken which particular suffix? Yes. Here win and agree have not taken any suffixes. Now what are they? These are newspaper headlines. Now this is an unknown convention. It's a custom or a convention that the headlines in the newspapers or in the newscasts over the radio and the TV, we use what? Simple present tense to refer what? Past events. The events these headlines refer to are, of course, in the immediate and not distant past. Whatever has happened in the immediate past, ಈಗತಾನೆ ನಡೆದಿರುವ event, not distant part. It doesn't talk about events that have happened over some years. No, immediate past. ಈಗತಾನೆ ನಡೆದಿರುವ ಘಟನೆ. Simple present tense is also used to refer future time. In English, we don't have future tense. To give you an example is that if I write a sentence, I will come tomorrow. I will come tomorrow. If I write a sentence, I will come tomorrow. Now the verb will is in which form? Is in present tense form. Tomorrow is a marker of what? You're coming. Now where is the future? The whole sentence talks about what? Future time reference. I will come tomorrow. Similarly in English, in order to talk about future time, there are many such expressions, or we use adverbial of time. Time ಅನ್ನು ಸೂಚಿಸುವ adverbial ಅನ್ನು ನಾವು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸುತ್ತೇವೆ. Let me give you the examples. Sita starts work next week. The verb is what? Start. Followed by what? Yes form. Work next week. The car leaves at 5 this evening. Leaves is what? An S form. At 5 this evening. Sita starts work. She is going to start work, which is a marker of time, next week. Next week talks about what? Future time reference. The car leaves at 5. When does car leave? At 5. What is this? Future time reference. Now, the use of simple present tense in these sentences suggests that the speaker sees the future event as absolutely certain. Then we use which tense? Present simple tense to refer to what? To refer to future time. Now we shall do a quick recap of what we learnt on tenses. I began by telling you that there are two tenses in English, the present and the past. Then I said all finite verbs are marked for tense. When I said all finite verbs are marked for tense, I have given you the explanation of the finite verb when I discussed verbs under the title Parts of Speech. Further, I said there are two tenses in English, the present and the past tense. Now, which shows the distinction between the present and the past tense? I said auxiliary verbs and lexical verbs show the distinctions between the two tenses. If there are no auxiliary verbs, then it is a lexical verb that shows the distinction. If there are no lexical verbs, then it is the auxiliary verb that shows the distinction. With auxiliary verbs, I have given you 4 examples. Can dance would become could dance. May play would become might play. Will jump would become would jump. Shall return would become should return. All these are with auxiliary verbs. These are examples for auxiliary verb, wherein can is in which tense? Present tense. Could is in which tense? Past tense. Further, we went on to understand words without auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbiನ ಸಹಾಯವಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರುವ ಕ್ರಿಯಾಪದಗಳು. Walk in present tense could be said as walk or walks. You have an addition of an s or an es as suffix. In the past, it becomes what? Walked. These are regular verbs. Go becomes goes, es, and in the past tense, it becomes what? Went. Then what is a tense? Tense is a grammatical feature of a verb and a verb phrase and is not to be identified with the concept of time. So, tense is a feature of a verb or a verb phrase or phrases. Verb phrase or phrases. You shouldn't identify it with the concept of time alone. Quite often, distinctions of tense mark the distinctions of time. Quite often, distinctions of tense mark the distinctions of time, not very often. Now, when I say in English, we have two tenses, I am referring to the grammatical feature of the verb, not the distinctions of time. We can identify the tense of the verb by what? By its form. Now, when I say form, I am only looking at the form and not at their meaning. The grammatical feature of tense is to convey what? Different meaning. Now, different meanings in the sense, when we talk of two tenses, the present and the past, they are used to convey what? Different meanings, and they perform different functions. Not only meaning, but also what? They perform different functions. Now, in order to understand the different meaning and functions, we first went on to understand the simple present tense. Now, what is a simple present tense? I live, we live, you live, they live in Bangalore. He, she, it. When I say he, she, it means what? Lives. That is, in first person singular and plural, second person singular and plural, third person plural, the verb doesn't take an S form or an ES form. Only in third person singular, the verb takes an S form. I have given separately he lives, she lives, it lives. I have also said in my fifth bullet here that the present tense is marked by the suffix yes or es. Then we went on to understand the uses of simple present tense. Simple present tense is used to make statements which do not have specific time reference. I gave you an example. The earth revolves round the sun. Now all these sentences, India shares a border, earth revolves round the sun, they refer to facts of time, point number 1. They are used in what? Point number 2, in present tense form, and they do not indicate any specific point of time. Fourth, they suggest a time span extending indefinitely into a remote past and a distant future. Now these are the 4 things that we understood when we saw the general statements. Next, the sentences I have given once again do not have specific time reference. It represents what? A state or a condition. That is what it represents. He likes ice creams, she knows Kannada. It doesn't talk about specific time reference at all. The other reference is that to refer to an action which are repeated over a period of time. Like what? She walks 2 miles a day. Earthquakes kill thousands of people. It refers to what? Habitual actions and events. Then the other example we took was on commentary, demonstration and an exclamation. In all these 3 items, we refer to actions which have begun and completed approximately at the moment of speech. Like what? Dhoni throws the ball to Rahul. It describes what? It describes an event. And the commentator, while describing an event, sees the action as it happens. Event and describe ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು action ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. So action ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೀತಾ ಇರೋದಲ್ಲಿ moment of speech ಮುಗಿಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ action ಏನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ? ನಡೆದು ಮುಗಿದಿರುತ್ತೆ. Commentary. Similarly, in demonstration, now pour water into the vessel. Even in demonstration, we use what? We use simple present tense. For exclamation, for example, when speaker expresses his or her feelings on what? At the moment of its happening, then we use simple present tense form. And simple present tense form is used to narrate past events. Here, we describe the past events as if they are happening now. The driver stops the bus and then the men enter the bus and rob the passengers at gunpoint. The verbs here, tell, refer to acts of communication which took place in the past, but they are used in the present tense to show that the results and effects of these acts are still relevant. That is, the information conveyed in these acts are operative even now. For example, I hear that Geeta is buying a car. This is a past acts of communication. You have already heard, but still the relevance of it could be seen even now. In newspaper headlines opposition supports strike. By convention, while talking about headlines in the newspaper or newscasts over radio and TV, we use simple present tense to refer to what? Past events. Now, all the events here in these headlines are, of course, that of immediate past, not of distant past. Now, simple present tense is used to describe what? Future time reference. Here the simple present tense such as Sita starts work next week or the car leaves at 5 this evening. These sentences suggest that the speaker sees the future event as absolutely certain. Now, apart from this, you can in fact use the word tomorrow, day after with these expressions to describe future time reference also. Now, in all these examples, you have seen that simple present tense is used to indicate what? Timelessness. There is no specific time reference. For example, the earth revolves round the sun. Habitual actions, instantaneous actions like commentary, past actions which we saw a while ago, future happenings clearly show that simple present tense does not always indicate present time, and therefore the grammatical feature of tense should not be identified with time. Having understood this, today we shall in the next class understand how simple past tense is used. Thank you.